Welcome to this Sunday podcast. David here from the Conscious Creation Academy. I hope you've got your tea and your coffee ready, sitting in your dressing gown or your pajamas on this Sunday morning, when we're going to adventure, of course, into the nature of consciousness and really help you transform your life. And today we're exploring why nothing changes for you. Based on a lot of the feedback I get in the channel and the questions I get, it really shows that people are doing a lot of work, but they're not getting the right results. So today we're going to be exploring why that happens and how to make some incredible and very quick changes in your life. So let's get into it. If you have any questions, do comment below. Let me know if you like this format, and also subscribe, share, do all that kind of YouTubey kind of stuff. Now, this may or may not be you, but think about somebody who's been doing this work for absolutely years and years. They understand the basics of the ideas. They can talk about it, of course. They've tried the visualization courses, they've been on the Buddhist retreats of solitude, they've done affirmations and gratitude, all that kind of stuff, and yet nothing really looks different in their life. Their finances or their relationships, their patterns just keep repeating, or they've still got health issues that keep returning, or if they get over one health issue, one comes up in another area. So a lot of people get frustrated, of course, about that, understandably. And what I want to say is that they're not actually failing at what they're doing, interestingly enough, although it might not look like it. They're actually practicing, or whatever they're doing it at the wrong level of a belief system. So beliefs are the organizing experience that's sitting beneath, if you like, deep beneath these practices that they do. And they simply don't touch them, because the deeper beliefs that you need to change come with improved awareness. They come when you're really changing your ideas about reality. So it's not really belief change as such, it is a kind of an awareness change. So I want to show you where that is. And just to remind you, of course, we are not physical beings who occasionally have some kind of spiritual experience. We are the soul in physical clothes. We are consciousness expressing ourselves through a framework made from our own thoughts, translated into events that we call physical. And we experience reality just as we do in a dream. We have an internal structure, a belief system, ideas, expectations that translate into an environment that are expressed. And those internal structures, that's what we need to pay attention to. They're the most important ones, and we can call them beliefs. So a belief is a focus of energy, a focus of thought, a series of thoughts, if you like, based around accepted ideas about the nature of reality and about this state of consciousness, how it organizes, and our relationship to it. And from that belief system, from that architecture, everything flows. And the thoughts that naturally arise in your mind, well, they're triggered by your beliefs. All the emotions that you have every second of every day, they're triggered by your beliefs also. Any expectations you carry into situations or new ideas or the past, they're created and triggered from your beliefs also. The decisions that you make, the actions you take, all are triggered by your beliefs. The life you're living then is not a collection of random events. It's created by you and by your beliefs. It's a natural output, if you like, of the state of consciousness that we are operating in. And that state is organized by our belief system, what we accept to be true. So that's the premise of understanding that. And a lot of people, including myself, talk about belief work. But we need to understand two different types of beliefs, if you like, because this is where people go wrong. They look for limiting beliefs and they find things like, I'm not good enough with money, or relationships are hard, or nobody likes me, or the world doesn't go my way, or I'm not the kind of person who succeeds. And so if we work on these beliefs and nothing changes, we've got to think, okay, well, what's below them? What's driving those beliefs? And remember that beliefs are not the enemy. What we need to focus on is what's underneath these beliefs, and let's call them core beliefs. The beliefs that we have just about ourselves every day, let's call them satellite beliefs. And this is really important because surface conclusions about specific areas of life, they're not the source or the structure of what's running or ruining your life. To change your life, you've got to head into the core beliefs. Your beliefs about reality, about how you intersect with reality, about what reality is and how it operates. This source of energy sits much deeper then. Core beliefs are not personal opinions about yourself. They're ideas about the nature of reality itself that become core beliefs about yourself. These ideas then are so widely reinforced by our culture, by society, and lived experience, they stop feeling like beliefs. A long time ago, they just go, well, this is just how reality is. They feel like facts. And because they feel like facts, they're just absolutely accepted. And this is what makes them so powerful. So a belief that you can see, that you can explore on a piece of paper, you can question, of course. A belief that feels like a fact about reality runs very quietly and powerfully in the background, organising everything. You never think to examine it. So we're going to walk through some core beliefs that almost every single person carries. This is not a list that is ended, so there will be more, but you can add to it, obviously. But sit with these ideas and see if you think they're true, because one of these may be the hub, if you like, of everything you're struggling with. And if you change this core belief, it will affect everything else. So the first core belief is that reality is a physical world that exists independently from you. That is a belief. It's not true, it's a belief. And most people carry this, of course, so completely they've never questioned it, even those that talk about the law of attraction. The world is out there, solid, fixed and separate, and your job is to influence it from the inside. So just think, is this a belief that I have in any way, shape or form? Because if that's true, then it's no wonder you're struggling to make changes. But if reality itself is a state of consciousness, it's not out there, a single belief, a single change around that can transform your life. Because you cannot effortlessly create within a world that's separate from you. If you believe that, the gap between yourself and what you want is not a physical gap, it's a belief gap. And that's really important. So if you in any way, shape or form have this core idea that the world is separate from you, that could be why you're struggling. Well, it will be. The second core belief is a belief that time is a fixed structure that you are subjected to, that you are a victim to. Therefore, ideas that the past is permanent and it can't be changed, or the future is uncertain, things have to be earned in order to have a good future, that you're moving through time rather than creating events within it. This belief alone causes so many problems. It sits quietly and it shapes a whole lifetime. It makes certain experiences locked in terms of beliefs. It can make change feel slow. A lot of people say, well, I can't make quick changes. They've got to happen through time. It makes the idea that reality can shift quickly feel naive, unrealistic, or you're being a little bit silly. And yet that sense of time being fixed is not a description of reality. It's a belief about reality. The third core belief is that the body is a biological machine controlled by processes beyond and outside your influence, that it ages according to fixed laws, time, obviously mostly, and that it's subject to inherited conditions, that's another big one. It deteriorates over time, that what happens inside your body is beyond your reach, beyond your control. This belief places the body outside the field of consciousness and creation, and again, causes so many problems. And it feels a bit silly to think that you don't have to, degrade as you get older, but you don't. The fourth belief is that other people hold power over you in your experience. That what they think of you determines your value in some way, shape or form, because you think your reality is connected to them. But it's not at all. This belief means that their actions can take something from you that cannot be restored unless you take something from them, that you need approval, permission, or their cooperation to create something that you want, because somehow they're in charge. And this is a really common belief that fits into ideas like self-worth and really undervalues people's work. It generates an enormous number of satellite beliefs about relationships, visibility, self-worth, as I say. The fifth core belief is that life is inherently difficult, that struggle is the price of anything worthwhile. If it's worth doing well, it's worth the struggle. Or that ease means that you're missing something. Somehow it's flighty. Somehow it's not as valuable. That if something comes too easily, it probably is not going to last. This belief in struggle, this belief is so culturally embedded in us that people who begin to experience genuine ease in their creative work often feel guilty about it. People start looking for a catch. Something's going to stop. This can't be right. I can't have it going all my own way. Because that belief says there has to be one thing that's going to stop me. Okay, and so the sixth belief is that there is something wrong with you, that you are by nature unworthy, that your subconscious is chaotic, that there's something wrong with you, that you might not be totally broken, but you're also not totally trustworthy. And so that creates a complete sense of misunderstanding about the nature of your abilities, your ability to trust yourself and reality. And it's one that most people carry. It impacts hugely in self-worth. But at a certain point, you need to learn to accept that you are a trustworthy individual, that you are a person who can be trusted, that you're a good person, and that there is literally nothing wrong with you. And that does change everything. That core belief that there's nothing wrong with you, that you're amazing, right to the core, really can transform your life. And so what we also see is that first one, which may be the deepest one, if you like, or the most transformative, that somehow you're separate from the world, is the big one. Understanding that core idea, accepting that the world is not separate from you, just like a dream, because all the other core beliefs on the list come from that, if you like, the idea of separation from yourself, from your reality, and that's really key. So there are other core beliefs, but as I walk through those, something might have shifted. You might have recognized some of them as a concept, if you like, something that you're living by or you're not fully accepting. And that recognition is the beginning of the work, because here's what these do structurally, and here's the really important bit. If you imagine a wheel as the center of a hub, like a bicycle wheel, at the center is a hub, and the hub is that core belief, something like, life requires struggle because it's separate from me and I'm trustworthy. A bunch of core beliefs in there, that it makes you out of control. So from that hub, from those core beliefs, imagine spokes radiating out, and each spoke is a satellite belief. So if you say that everything is separate from me, I'm not trustworthy, the next satellite belief will be, well, that means that money is hard to make, success creates problems, hard work's the only way, or I never get what I want, or I don't deserve it. Those are satellite beliefs formed from that hub, from that core belief. And the key is they are held in place by the hub. And most people doing this work go after the spokes. The belief about money, then a belief about relationships, one at a time, step by step. It's slow, difficult work because the hub is still there. The hub is still pumping out all these events and experiences. It's generating new spokes that replace the ones that you removed. But if that core belief genuinely shifts, that hub, if you remove the hub, what happens to all the satellite beliefs? They lose their connection completely. The foundation disappears, not one at a time, but all of them are affected. Often many disappear simultaneously. And so a person who genuinely moves from believing that reality is a fixed physical world, that they've got to force and influence, to understanding that reality is a state of consciousness that they're already generating, doesn't have to change one belief. It changes the whole hub. And then when the hub goes, the entire wheel collapses of limiting ideas. So you don't have to change those thousands of satellite beliefs. They all lose their structural support at the same time. And this is why I'm constantly saying awareness is the key to changing your reality. Belief change, yes, of course, but you must understand the nature of reality, how it operates. As a understanding, that's really the most powerful technique you can have, because you're not working spoke by spoke, belief by belief. You're working on the hub. And this is where manifestation stops feeling like effort. It just happens. It just works because you've removed and changed that hub. So there's a few ways to get into that hub. So you can make a list of the core beliefs, just like we did there. But the first one is repeating patterns. If you look at your experience, things that keep repeating, keep creating, obviously that's not random. And instead of asking why it's happening, ask a different question maybe. What belief about reality would make this pattern logical? What belief about this reality would make this pattern logical? Because the pattern is always pointing towards the root, okay, towards the hub. Second is emotional reactions, like strong reactions like fear or anger or shame that feel disproportionate to what's actually going on. These are signals there's a core belief being touched. So allow yourself to feel the feeling and trace it back to that core belief. The third one might be just questioning. The best way to uncover ideas is to ask better questions. Something like, what would I have to believe about reality? What core belief would I have to make this experience make sense? And then you go deeper into it. So for example, if the first answer is, well, money's difficult to get, you ask another one that says, well, what deeper belief would make that true? Perhaps it might be, well, that life is a struggle, if you like. And you ask again, what belief about reality would produce that? And that's where you begin to get into the hub of these core beliefs. It's never more than 3, 4 or 5 questions down. And once a core belief becomes genuinely visible, it stops running automatically. It was only truly powerful because it was invisible. The moment that you see it clearly, that you understand, okay, this is happening because I believe reality is separate to me and therefore it's fearful. This isn't a fact, it's a belief I can change. Things begin to loosen internally and therefore they begin to change in your physical reality. And then the work isn't about forcing new beliefs or thoughts. It's about introducing a new understanding about the nature of reality, allowing that to reorganize itself and reorganize your state of consciousness. And when that understanding is held in imagination, felt emotionally, and allowed to shape decisions, everything shifts. And when everything shifts, when the main state shifts, probable realities begin to shift and change. Not because you're doing affirmations, not because you're praying to Waboon, Lord of the Underworld, but because you understand you create your own existence, you create the conditions of your reality, and that you're happy about that. And that you're going to take relaxed control over it. Because that change in consciousness allows a complete change in the way that you operate. So recognize that beliefs are not the enemy. They can be sometimes. It can feel like that, struggling with your beliefs. But they are a mechanism. They're also a doorway to freedom or a doorway to pain and suffering. And also recognize that every belief you carry was accepted for a reason. It's neither good nor bad. You just picked it up somewhere. But part of working consciously with reality is learning to examine the structures and getting down to those core beliefs. To ask, is this still the understanding of reality I want to be creating from? Because the moment that belief becomes visible, as I say, it becomes workable. And that's where the real changes begin. So of course I've got to download a PDF called the Belief Blueprint to help you understand and explore your belief systems, and it walks you through the exact processes of identifying these core beliefs, operating the background of your experience, and gives you frameworks for belief work. So recognize if you've been struggling for a long time, you've got to go to these core beliefs. Stop trying to change your beliefs one at a time. And the link will be in the description. So I hope that's useful for you. Have a wonderful Sunday. I will see you in the videos next week. Do comment below, do like, share the video, subscribe, all that kind of YouTubey stuff. And do let me know if that was useful or not, and if you have any other subjects that you want me to do videos on. That's it, guys. Have a great Sunday. Enjoy, and I'll see you very soon. Take care.